The House committee investigating the January 6th riot has spoken to former President Trump's Attorney General Bill Barr.
The committee's chairman, Benny Thompson, revealed this conversation on CBS News' Face the Nation on Sunday.
We've talked to Department of Defense individuals. We are concerned that our military was part of this big lie on promoting that the election was false. So if you are using the military to potentially seize voting machines, even though it's a discussion, the public needs to know. We've never had that before.
It's a heck of a discussion. Meanwhile, Virginia's Attorney General has fired the lead investigator for the January 6th committee from his university post. That'd be Tim Hafey. He was on leave from the University of Virginia, a public university, while he investigates the insurrection. For more on all of this, I want to bring in CBS News congressional correspondent Nikole Killion. Nikole, good afternoon to you. The Benny Thompson comments to Margaret this weekend were really eye-opening. I don't often see Margaret leaning in on the desk, just looking for more information. I don't think any of you expected it. We also learned that Bill Barr had spoken to the January 6th committee. That was news. What do we know about that conversation, and how does it compare to other former Trump officials and how they're handling the probe?
Well, our understanding based on the interview that Margaret had with Congressman Thompson, as well as other members of the panel, is that this was voluntary and that it appears at this point in time that the former Attorney General has primarily met with staff from the committee. What we don't know is that eventually will the former Attorney General sit before the panel for a public hearing? Will he come in for a deposition? So Congressman Thompson did not necessarily show his cards as far as that is concerned, but clearly the committee is interested in learning more from the former Attorney General, who you recall resigned about a month before the end of former President Trump's term amid a lot of turmoil. And quite frankly, as you heard Chairman Thompson say there, one thing they do want to take a closer look at is this draft executive order that was never enacted, but apparently did outline these steps that would be granted to the Secretary of Defense, allowing the Secretary to seize all voting machines, to also appoint a special counsel to probe the 2020 election. So, as Chairman Thompson told our Margaret Brennan, even with this existence of a draft, that's enough that this idea was proposed. That is something that the committee feels the American public should know more about and who was involved in some of those discussions.
Absolutely. Nikole, some Democrats are questioning the firing of lead January 6th investigator from his university position, as Tony mentioned earlier. A spokesperson for Virginia's Attorney General says the firing had nothing to do with the investigation. But still, how does this play into the larger conversation around whether or not this investigation is being politicized?
Well, this committee and investigation has been politicized since day one. I mean, keep in mind that the entire objective was to have a bipartisan commission established. That never occurred because Speaker Pelosi and House Minority Leader Kevin McCarthy could never come to an agreement over that. And so that is why the panel is what it is, which is primarily a Democratic-run panel with 2 Republican members. Now, in the case of this attorney who has really been serving as the lead investigator on the panel, Virginia's Attorney General says that this has nothing to do with his role on the January 6th committee. We have reached out to the committee for comment to see if they have more to say on that front, but certainly there has been a lot of politicization surrounding this committee. Many Republicans accusing the panel of pursuing a witch hunt against the former president. Even just yesterday, former House Speaker Newt Gingrich suggested that some of these committee members should go to jail for the way that they have carried out this investigation, which, in the words of Congresswoman Liz Cheney, one of the key Republicans on the panel, she wrote, "This is what it looks like when the rule of law unravels." So there has been a lot of partisan back and forth with respect to the committee. What the committee members continue to insist and tell us is that they believe that they can conduct a fair, nonpartisan investigation, even if it's not equally weighted or more equally balanced, that at the end of the day, they're simply trying to follow the facts in this investigation wherever they may lead.
And those facts are leading the January 6th committee to now want to talk to Ivanka Trump. Nikole, what is the latest on that effort, and what has been the former president's daughter's reaction to this request?
Well, the committee is giving Ivanka Trump until early February, I believe February 3rd, to voluntarily sit before the panel. And they say that they do want to learn more from the former president's daughter, because not because she's the president's daughter. They say they're not targeting her for those reasons, but simply because she was an advisor at the White House. She was a key confidant of the former president and was apparently brought in to try to convince her father to call off the rioters on January 6th. And so, again, what the committee is trying to get at is the mindset of the former president, what he was doing in the days, hours, minutes leading up to this riot, what he was doing in those 187 minutes when he did not call anyone off, and the aftermath, in addition to these efforts and discussions that were happening behind the scenes to potentially come up with various ways to try to overturn the election. So they believe that Ivanka Trump is very integral, particularly to those discussions to try to get her father to call this riot off. And so they say that they remain hopeful that she will ultimately cooperate. That being said, the former president is not too happy about this, calling the committee's request very unfair. We know the panel has also reportedly sought phone records from the former president's son, Eric Trump, who tweeted just last week that he has nothing to hide. So clearly the panel is targeting more members, not only of the former president's inner circle, but members of his family, which is really irritating the former president, to say the least.
I'm sure. All right, Nikole Killion on Capitol Hill. Thank you so much.